You know, I remember the time when we all just saw Shadow the Hedgehog as this dumb joke for a while, but we now have a sequel to the game and it's actually really great. I can't believe that Dark Age nostalgia is a thing now. Haven't seen you in a while. Really? Doing this again? Oh, fuck off. It's been a while, Blue Blur. It has been a while. Look, you don't have to be told that Sonic has had a rough life. The vast majority of people will say the original trilogy are classics, and you have generations of mania, but outside of those, saying the rest of the franchise is, at the very least, divisive is being generous. The Game Gear games are mostly forgotten, CD is mostly liked, though I'd argue it's mostly the hipsters before it became available on PC. 3D Blast is a lousy jump to 3D, as well as Sonic R, Sonic the Fighters, and Sonic Extreme, the latter being so bad that it died in the womb. And then there's the adventure games, the Advanced Trilogy, Battle, and Heroes. It's very hard to tell whether people like any of these games or not, and while Adventure 2, and maybe the original Advance are well liked, generally, it's clear to see that people on the great land of WWW want people to believe they're trash games from the start. Me personally, I have respect for both adventure games, despite some padding and boring Chow Garden shit that people keep insisting are fun. The advanced games are good to a point, but are made with faulty concepts and unforgivable level design like constant bottomless pits and restrictive entrances to shitty special stages, though bad special stages are kind of a constant in the originals as well. I will not hear arguments. Oh, and Heroes and Battle are just crap. Sorry to all 10 fans of both of those train wrecks. But after Heroes, the series became more unstable, leading to what many people call the Dark Age of the franchise. Though if you want to be a particular asshole, you can say it happened before then, or maybe even still happening today. But why the Dark Age? What makes or made people see this period of Sonic with so much vitriol? And why are some people seeing it with a little more vindication now? Well, to answer that, we have to go to the beginning. To the very first game that started this whole thing in the first place. Sonic Jump. Didn't expect that one, did you? Oh wait, give me a second. There you go, that's more like it. You probably didn't know the current version is a remake of a phone game from 2005. Yeah, I'll be honest, playing it, I'm still not convinced. The reused assets make me think it's just another one of those Flash games you'd find on a custom Sonic Games online site, featuring next to Sonic and Mario World and Sonic Fantasy X. Man, I really want to play some Mega Man X. Maybe later. It's nothing special, though since it requires motion, having to map it to buttons make it both awkward to play and awkward to look at. The music is kinda nice, though. Yeah, okay, enough of that. Memories. I believe this was the first and, for a while, only DS game I owned. I got my DS around 2008, 2009 or so, and yeah, I'm surprised I didn't have any Pokemon or Mario games at the time either. At least I got WarioWare Touched and Bowser's Inside Story soon after. Oh, and also trash, but I'll get to you momentarily. But my memories with Sonic Rush is more outside the game rather than the game itself. I played the Sonic portions and enjoyed the energy and loathed the special stages, while my brother played the Blaze portions. And when we unlocked the final zone, we actually alternated between the two and cheered when we defeated the Eggmen. It's a nice memory I'll always have with the game. Though I'll be honest, speaking as a game, it never left too much of an impact. I thought it didn't hit the same highs as the Genesis and Advanced trilogies. And even when I played Sonic Colors Generations and the adventure games, there was just more to get excited by. That was until I made my Let's Play of the game back in... Jesus Christ.
Okay, I talked a little too much. And now I'm going to the special stage. I didn't talk much about the level, but...
My god, enunciate, you stammering child. Not important. That was the first time playing through the Blaze story, and that gave a new appreciation for the game. Yeah, stop me if you've heard this one before, but Blaze is one of my favorite characters in the franchise. I'm a sucker for the Ice Queen trope, and pairing her with Cream is just excellent chemistry. I can argue the power of friendship is probably overhanded by the end, but then again, that's just the franchise as a whole. She also has fire powers, which is ironic in that sense. And in this game, she's got a hover as well as longer distance with her tricks than Sonic. More on that in a second. All Sonic has is a homing attack that is 90% effective. I don't quite buy that Blaze is Sonic's dimensional counterpart. With her being a loner guarding her set of emeralds, I associate her more with Knuckles. I wish they had more interaction in the game, actually. But she's not the only dimensional visitor, as Eggman's counterpart is also here, mostly just to be a disturbance. I know some of you are wincing at the fact that he's named Eggman Nega, and yeah, I get it. They could have found a better name. Neo was right there. Right on. Right there. Right on. Right there. Right on. God, this soundtrack is fantastic. But yeah, Eggman Nega wasn't as fun as Eggman is best. And to be fair, Eggman isn't all that fun in this game either. Which is partially why I didn't love the game at first. But to get into the rest of the reasons, let's get into the gameplay. So do you like Sonic Advance 2? Well, here's that on crack cocaine. Thankfully, the concept of special rings is taken to the back and hung, and stuff like tricks and speed boosting are now a core component. With the press of the button, Sonic and Blaze will rush forward with the energy generated by the oil of their enemies, and yeah, thanks, I didn't want to listen to the excellent music. You're going to do tricks for the majority of the adventure, after being flung from vines to jumping off ramps, as well as doing them on the multitude of grind rails. The boost does make you invincible, mostly, and it keeps you getting caught by death boulders. Someone sure liked Indiana Jones. But the one thing you need that energy for are these wheels that will take you to what might be the dullest special stages in the series. It's the half pipe, but this time you got to use the stylus to move Sonic around, and you got some trick springs to give you a lot of rings alone. I suppose making them piss easy makes it more tolerable than other special stages in the past, but it's still another dud in the pile of garbage. But hey, even though I say a lot of crap about these special stages, at least the design is better than the actual stages. Jesus Christ. That's the game's biggest weakness. The level design has a lot of instant kill hazards, bottomless pits, obstacles, and platforming challenges above bottomless pits. Fuck you, altitude limit! And it's despite the fact that the game encourages you to boost and perform air tricks. Most opportunities follow up with, you guess it, a bottomless pit. Literally the only points where bottomless pits aren't a possible threat are in these enemy rooms. What is the point of these, by the way? They're not even challenging in the slightest. Oh god, I just reminded myself of the bosses. Yeah, I take it back. This is the game's biggest weakness. They take their sweet time to expose their weak points. Most of them have insta-kill attacks, and some of them love to repeat patterns just to waste. But this is the third time you're doing this! Why are you doing this, you fucking cock?! Forget about getting that S rank when those happen. It's the first time the Sonic games incorporate this, and it's like ripping a toenail to achieve them. Unless you put it on easy, that is, which, yeah, you should have it on easy. There's no reason not to. I'd have to wonder if this game didn't have the rocking soundtrack that I'd even like the game to begin with. It's a patience-testing slog to the core. But hey, at least it's still a decent time, and it's a nice modest meal before we head into the road of misery. Hell with it, just play the cutscene. This was one of the games that I admittedly played plenty on our Xbox. That and the next game on the list. Well, yes, the game was lambasted for being a ridiculous concept. When my parents came home with a pile of games from a closing movie store, I was gravitated by the case of Shadow holding a bazooka in front of the wildfire. I don't remember if I thought it was cool or if it was just mild curiosity. I knew who Shadow was, to a degree. I was somewhat internet savvy when we got the game in 2011. Hell, that was the year that I started making YouTube videos. And I watched videos and read wikis that involved Shadow as a character, though it was all greatly exaggerated. The Sonic Shadow and Silver Sprite videos back in the day may have been entertaining to a teenage brain, but they really did bastardize these characters. Though if this was your first introduction to Shadow, they may not have been that overblown. The brooding at the beginning, the occasional swearing, the grit, the ultra-violence. It was a night and day difference compared to the games I played before this. I'm sure if I played through the story mode in Sonic Heroes, comparing Shadow in both games would create some whiplash. I was more indifferent to the grays and purples most of the game was covered in, and the soundtrack didn't grab me all that much, except for Skype Troops. random track, I'm aware. But I was having fun with the gunplay, more so because the auto-aim didn't require a lot of brain power. The banter between the characters was kinda fun, and the endings were pretty bad, but it was nice to see when Shadow started to see himself as a good guy. Oh yeah, I should clarify, I only played the good endings back then. I was not really interested in having Shadow be a villain, or at the very least a trollish asshole. And to be completely fair, the game didn't grab enough of my attention compared to Sonic Riders, SSX Tricky, and even Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Okay, that game was also terrible, but I beat it, if that means anything to anybody. There were also like 12 or so other games. You have to understand, I was swimming in other choices. A couple of years later, though, I decided, hey, there are more endings, and there are some stages I didn't touch, so why not complete... Oh my god. Okay, yeah, my opinion on Shadow the Hedgehog dropped significantly when I played more. I also noticed how incoherent the plot is. And I say plot and not story because... what story? It's just random cutscenes with Shadow trying to remember his past, and sometimes he talks to this floating alien fuck with a butthole for a face. Black Doom is the worst villain in the franchise. I'm not a fan of alien invasion stories all that much anyway. Hell, I'm not even a big fan of the obvious inspiration for this story. But that's not my problem with Black Doom. His only contributions to the story are, he created Shadow, and he's trying to get the Hedgehog to do his dirty work. He just sat around until pretty much the last minutes, if you count the last story. If you ignore that, there's a small chance where you can get Black Doom to do nothing in the story, over-the-shoulder influence notwithstanding. Like, what? And before you ask, no, he's not much better in Shadow Generations. That game can't do everything perfectly. Another character I don't really care for is the Gun Commander. He's got a vendetta against Shadow because he witnessed Shadow being created by Black Doom and thinks Shadow was responsible for Maria's death because he was close to her. Yeah, I'd believe that horseshit if he weren't the commander of Gun, the actual agency that put the bullet into Maria's back to begin with. You'd think he'd know that, or at least acknowledge the fact while blaming Shadow's existence, but nope. He just hates the Hedgehog's existence and calls him the Devil. All the while he rides a mech basically named after the Devil. Subtle. He's just a very confused character, canonically and conceptually. But if he had to exist, I'd like for him to have at least one resonant scene.
If what you say is true, then I will respectfully accept my fate.
You mean to tell me that you really don't remember a thing?
But I just need some time to uncover the real truth.
Okay, this is the best scene in the game. His retcon as a character aside, I like this scene because it shows Shadow's amnesia as potent fuel for a gentle heart-to-heart, and the commander's reaction is quite engaging. Shame is potentially non-canon! The one thing I really can't stand with this game is the branching pathways, and by extension the morality system. Depending on what you do, whether you do evil deeds or heroic actions, you'll be led to a specific pathway. The normal missions just make you go to the gold ring, which is standard. And it's the same for specific good or evil missions on the edges of the morality map where there are only two choices. But once you get to the parts where you have to collect a shit ton of rings, activating terminals, or killing a high amount of enemies, no. The way the game is structured, if you miss just one of these things, you gotta pick around the map and find the stragglers. The most of the time? This doesn't need to be mentioned, it's been said to death. But Lost Impact is the biggest offender, because the stage is so maze-like and several of the artificial chaos are hidden in the nooks and crannies. The other Ark level isn't much better with the same issues, though at least I'd rather find dying bodies than...
Supposed to be for emergencies only. Did someone know this would all happen?
Ugh. Oh, and if you dare take out an allied enemy... What an oxymoron. Your partner is going to scold you, even when you literally need to progress through the stage. Oh, but when they do it, it's perfectly okay. Fuck off, SBO.
Who do you think your enemy is?
How do you want me to progress?
Try going up.
It all feels like a vessel to be more cheesy and hammy, but the problem is... Oh. Okay, so I love a little bit of ham and cheese, but it needs a little more of a foundation to really be, enjoyable. Even if it is a little overcooked. And some of the endings, like I stated earlier, are quite the spectacle. And as far as they are, they're pointless, as once you get all 10 endings, you get the final story, and spoiler alert, Shadow's the good guy. It's honestly not shocking, not just because, well, duh, but I can't be the only person to realize they really want you to be the good guy. When you do deeds, you build up chaos energy. Enough bad deeds will give you this fairly worthless energy blast, and do enough good deeds, you get chaos control, which only stops time in boss fights, but in levels, you fly over the level for a short bit. Most of the time it's short. Shadow, stop looking at me, please. Well, it doesn't really help your hero mission all that much, considering a lot of the time you gotta be searching throughout the level. At least the infinite ammo is nice. But it also helps your normal mission, and even your dark mission if it requires you to go through the gold ring, because, well, you're flying through the level. Seriously, what in God's name is the point of the morality system at that point? Okay, so I'm doing a lot of bitching because, there's a lot of bitching to do. But to be perfectly fair, there are some things in the game that are actually kind of good, and some things I just like. First off, Shadow the Hedgehog has some great quality of life updates that for some reason don't usually come back. You can stop at the edge of a platform from high speeds. I know Sonic Heroes did that, but it's much better here. You can switch rails at the press of a stick, and they still do that in some games, but in a couple games after this, you have to do an extra button press, which is like, why? You already have a winning formula. And if you want to do a light speed dash, the ring trails actually leave a ghost trail in case you collected one of the rings. Dude, this was such a great idea, and they never again implement this for some dumbass reason. This is also the first 3D game to have the fire shield. It doesn't work as it should, but it's nice to have. Getting more game specific, the gameplay is actually pretty fun, as long as you got the right guns. Once you got certain endings, you unlock fun little novelty weapons, from an Omochao gun to a hyper powerful gun, great for chase segments, and the Billy Hatcher gun that sucks. And honestly, it's the best and only option, especially for the expert mode, because you get 3 extra lives when you fill it all the way up. Oh yeah, the expert mode. The expert mode is an endurance test, playing through every stage and sequence until you either get to the final way or you lose all your lives. AKA what the game should have been. I was extremely curious on this. I've never played it myself, and I decided, maybe this mode will convince me on the game, so I decided to unlock it. Getting all the A ranks for all the missions wasn't all that fun, so it better be worth the pain. The verdict is... honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. The level design might be changed to be more challenging, but it wasn't unbearable. Mostly. And the fact that you don't have to worry about the mission structure or partners pestering you for doing something you shouldn't be doing, it's just nice. In fact, the only time you hear them is at the beginning when they're wishing you luck at the beginning. Thank you. The only real issue I have with Expert Mode is... God, what was the name of the level? Okay, Cosmic Fall. Man, these levels just blend in. Not because the level is a nightmare, even though it is, but every time you die, you have to hear this every time. I want to harm the person that thought that was a good idea. Not like the original was much better outside of Vector badly trying to get Shadow out of an existential crisis. And nothing else. I found a new appreciation for Shadow thanks to the expert mode. Though it hasn't changed my mind that much. It is still a slippery, repetitive, charmless, unnecessarily gritty farce. And even if I give the expert mode some praise, chances of me going back is about as likely as Black Doom having a worthwhile character. Also, if you wait 9 minutes into the Devil Doom fight at the end, you can get an answer to why Shadow survived in Sonic Heroes. This game is such a narrative disaster, dude. You have no idea. Now for the Moon Whiplash!
Still, how can a plank like that just float?
That's easy to explain. According to the Kutta-Joukowski lift theorem, the control surface flow is balanced by the inverse kinetics of the...
Stop!
Okay, let's get this out of the way. Sonic Riders is the best game in the video. I'm really sorry to spoil that. I played this game so much, with all the missions done, playing the World Cups over and over, playing the story mode over and over, to the point where the game will crash during the CGI cutscenes. Also, the shitty frame rate and delayed subtitles have been there since we had the game. Am I the only case of this, or is this an Xbox thing? I'm curious because every cutscene compilation I see are most likely the GameCube version. Hell, I played this game so much that I bought almost all the boards. Only 3 of them were there when I started the session. That's crazy. The story mode is also the most fun I've had with any of these games. I love the animation's fluidity and exaggeration, which also extends to the gameplay. I don't mind Jet and the Babylon Rogues as rivals. Jet is obnoxious, self-centered, and greedy, and sees Sonic as beneath him, both figuratively and literally. Wave is narcissistic, and Storm is a dumb hothead, but both are in it for the money just like Jet. Learning about them in the land of Babylon is a nice slice of lore in the universe, and it also might be the most blatant religious reference in the franchise, which might be a bit of an insulting one depending on how you want to look at it. I also enjoy the end of the Babylon Rogue storyline where Eggman holds a gun behind them, prompting them to give him the treasure, and he just goes splat on the floor learning that it's just a magic carpet. God, this game's animation is fantastic. The game's style is just remarkable. Just about every character got a makeover, with the main trio just get goggles with Sonic getting these very tiny glasses. What the hell is that? What's the point of those? And Amy has the 90s style bell bottoms, which look absolutely great, but they only show them in parts of the story mode. I don't get... I guess it doesn't really matter. Eggman doesn't have a change in wardrobe in the main storyline, but his racing outfit is just fantastic. The jacket, the scarf, I love this design so much. It might be one of my favorites. Shadow Rouge and Cream are unlockables for the World Cup, and they've got their own fun redesigns as well. I wish they did it with the unlockable guest characters, but at least they look sick in the writer style. Now, style is all well and good, but you gotta still have a fun game for it to supplement. And even as a non-fan of racing games, this is still a fun time. It's got automatic acceleration, which might be a turnoff, and certain obstacles like turbulence trails from other racers make being behind the lead frustrating. However, I argue concepts like trick ramps and even energy consumption make the races much more exciting. The more tricks you make, the more air you increase in the tank, which means you're able to race longer. Or if you're feeling risky, sacrifice some of that air for a boost in speed. You also have class-specific shortcuts that also give you air, like grind rails for speed types, which to be honest is a little confusing to land at first, flight rings for flight types, which to be honest can be confusing to control at first, and finally smashing obstacles for power types, which is pretty straightforward in comparison. What an advantage. Yeah, the one big flaw everyone has with this game is that it's not beginner-friendly. There's no meaningful tutorial, even though there are so many mechanics to keep track of. It is a miracle I learned all of this 15 years ago, but I think that shows that there's enough visual conveyance to get someone started. But once you give the game enough time, I think you can love it. Though I know plenty of people who'd say otherwise, so what do I know? Anyway, yeah, let's get to the main event.
Chaos control!
Truth be told, I never played Sonic 06 before doing this video. I didn't get an Xbox 360 until roughly a decade after its release, and I pretty much felt like I got the game's whole vibe by then. The story was trash, the game looked like trash, with the hyper-realistic world and the cast looking... And if there was one positive, it was the music. The music was the best part by far. I know the gameplay is the one thing you have to experience to understand how bad it can be, so if I was going to understand the full disaster, I had to share my first impressions to the world. So I streamed my very first time playing Sonic 06 on Twitch. Yeah, the bitrate is terrible in hindsight, but let's be fair, isn't that what Sonic 06 deserves? I'm not good at twitching apparently. With that said, follow my Twitch. Anyway, Sonic 06 was actually as bad as I expected. Dealt enough mental damage at the start of Sonic's story. That Mach speed section killed me so many times thanks to the lack of mid-air movement, the high speed giving you no room to avoid edges and trees, and going on this ramp learning the automation goes, nope, you didn't hit the sweet spot, into the drink you go. And my misery only began. The snowboard in White Acropolis and Crisis City felt like pure arthritis. The Elise segments in Dusty Desert and Tropical Jungle, creative names there, were awkward as hell, especially when those levels had more open-ended level design. The level design overall was a mess. The vines in Tropical Jungle have weird timing since the glow is very faint. The crumbling bridges in Kingdom Valley, especially with Shadow, more on that bullshit in a minute. The camera in Flame Core. Like, the camera is bad in the entire game, but this level hates the common 3D tunnels and the lava pools. Sure, there are some alternate paths and secrets in most levels, you know, like an actual Sonic game, but it wasn't really enough to ignore garbage being thrown at me. Speaking of actual Sonic games, why the actual fuck can you not jump on enemies? You can use the homing attack as long as it connects, since you can't do something so fundamental. Even Shadow the Hedgehog allows you to do this. Speaking of Shadow, he's not much better in this regard. In fact, his homing attack itself doesn't do that much damage. It just teleports you to the enemy so you can spam the button for punches and kicks. Combat focus or not, this damages the pace so badly. Don't even get me started on Chaos Spear or Blast. They aren't worth beans either. And I should also mention the gems for Sonic real quick. But to be honest, I didn't bother with them until the later part of this campaign. And yeah, the cyan and purple gems are broken as shit, thanks to the broken meter. And they were great ways to make sure I didn't have to play this game as intended. Back to Shadow, he not only gets a more combat-focused gameplay style, but he also gets vehicles like his own game. And they suck dick. The Jeep is slippery and is used in levels where it really isn't needed. I thought I was smart when I broke the lights in White Acropolis with my own body, but the game didn't accept that bullshit. And the motorcycle is just a smaller and more worthless version of the Jeep. Pointless. The hovercraft in Kingdom Valley was a headache for reasons people who played the game understand too well. Why do the towers have to crumble, especially when the camera is fucking dog shit? And the glider... Shadow, how are you doing that? Yeah, I'm gonna blame that on the emulation, not the game itself. Maybe that's being naive to claim. I mean, I wish I didn't have to resort to emulation. I had the game, but my desk was not in favor of playing past the Egg Cerberus fight, which was kind of annoying, but it gave me a reason to stream the game for you all. Are you loving the video quality so far? This is the best decision I've made. Oh, by the way, the glider is slow and pointless. Didn't know if you could see that from the video. It's just terrible. I'll talk about the bosses later, but I have to mention the amigos. Every once in a while, you're pushed to play as another character. Like Tails, who can fly like his previous 3D outings, just not as good. And he can throw ring bombs like he did on his own in Heroes, just not as good. And you have Knuckles, whose glide is heavier than it used to be. And it takes ages to get off walls. It's like the gloves are covered in sticky tape like the bandit in Home Alone 2. Rouge ain't better in that front, but at least her bombs are not a bunch of rings, I guess. Omega is kind of okay. His shots are accurate, and his hover is immensely powerful. Shame that, like Shadow, his attacks make the pace of his segments sluggish. But that's for the levels. I'll have to be fair and say this doesn't apply to the bosses. Obviously, since fighting is essential for bosses, conceptually anyway, that stop and go isn't an issue. The issue is the bosses themselves. Like Rush and Shadow in some instances, the bosses tend to delay their attacks of opportunity. Though this time, the camera also aids in the fight against you. The Egg Cerberus, the Iblis Worm, Mephiles, they are either cryptic in their strategies or take longer than a trip to the DMV. Egg Genesis is also like this, if you play it normally. Hell, I have to admit, I don't even remember the right way for Sonic, and I don't wish to remember. The other fight that is so obnoxious that it's pretty much one of the game's biggest punchlines is Silver. Don't worry, I didn't forget about him even if I wanted to. Christ, this kid is insane. It is almost impossible to hit this guy without getting caught in his attacks. But yeah, Silver is the new rival here, and to this day, people cannot stand this dude. He's naive, headstrong, believes in the falsehood of Mephiles to kill Sonic because he's told that the blue bastard created a future he lives in, and people just see him as an idiot. They also see Blaze as an idiot. Yes, she's here too for some reason. Because I have to guess people think she knows Sonic up to that point, which, if she's still part of the other dimension, sure, it'd be weird for her to not interject. But that's also assuming this wasn't a retcon, which it was clearly planned to be. Even still, taking that out of the question, people might see this as a, why would you two believe someone who is obviously evil? And my rebuttal is, do you really think Silver and Blaze know many people in this wasteland? If you've been living in hell for most of your life, you'd be desperate to find a way to fix it. I get that it's hard to see this kid as anything more than a sociopath, but I have to be honest, I just don't get the hate. Despite not playing Sonic 2006 or knowing a lot about him through 06 or Rivals, the other game he appears in, I always enjoyed him outside all of that. He has psychic powers, he loves nature, and he wants to fix the injustices of the world. Sure, he's childish and clearly autism-coded, but he's a 14-year-old. Most 14-year-olds don't think all that critically. He even grows to learn the truth rather quickly, though how he gained that knowledge is kind of a cop-out. The idea of chaos control manipulating time to go to the past is a ridiculous jump in mechanical logic. And I also wish him and Blaze's chemistry was a lot more pronounced, as well as Blaze's role in the story, frankly. However, they don't bother me much since both of them are just great characters in the game, with no contest. Silver may be slower than Sonic and Shadow, but since the game is as stable as my mental health, a slower character with a hover makes the platforming far less frustrating. And the psychokinesis is so fun to use, especially when you get the power and shock bracelet upgrades. And Blaze may be worthless story-wise, but she's just as fun as she was in Rush. She's got a spin attack, a powerful double jump, and a homing attack just like Sonic's. These two are honestly incredible, and I'd say Silver's story is the best campaign. Unfortunately, Amy's inclusion is awful. Slow as shit, delayed double jump, terrible hammer range. I cannot believe they made her far worse than she was in Adventure. I'm not even sure why they bothered. Her inclusion is practically pointless. You could just have Tails save Sonic from Silver instead of Amy. And you could just have Elise save herself from Eggman's base. She seemed perfectly capable when she and Amy met. I also have to question the inclusion of Knuckles while we're at it. Like, his only reason for being here was to give Sonic a note from Eggman. What did he have to gain from this? The story is all over the place. It's why I don't want to discuss it past the relevant bits and pieces. I don't even want to get into the fact that they just straight up kill Sonic because Elise would release Iblis from her body? This whole plot has been bashed on over and over, and I don't really have anything to add. And I certainly don't wish to complain about the last story in its entirety. All of it sucked. And you can just look at my reactions live on their archives. Sonic 2006 is as bad as I expected, though it did have its fair share of surprises, like Silver's story. By the way, the Billard puzzle people tend to complain about, I got it on my first shot. Get on my level, bitches. At least the game has this, though. Excellent. However, the game was so irredeemable that someone did the unthinkable. They remade the entire game from scratch. This is Project Ghost 6 by Chaos X. Despite never playing the game from what I've heard, this guy wanted to take on the challenge of remaking one of the most reviled video games of all time. And by God, the Mad Lad actually did it. He's not completely finished, but the fact that he made so much of the game not only playable, but made so many little additions that transformed the game into something magical. The frame rate is better for starters, the lighting is much less muted, and there are added particle effects, like glowing aura around Silver while using his psychic abilities, or raindrops in the waterfall section of Kingdom Valley. They're small touches, but they just make the world feel alive. And several animations were touched up to improve the visual conveyance, with my favorite being the dummy ring bombs, just having the rings be dimmer and heavier. But everyone feels better. Sonic's moves like the Lightspeed Dash and homing attack are quick and snappy, and you can now jump on enemies. That's just great. And things like the Flame Core Lava actually causing you to gradually lose rings instead of losing all of them, pretty much like the robot bullets in the OG game. I love that addition. Tails feels smooth and has more weight to him while he's flying. Knuckles is lighter and can remove himself from the walls much easier, same with Rouge. Silver gains gradual speed and now hovers while he's moving. It actually looks sick as hell. Amy has much better maneuverability as well as a new spinning attack. God almighty, I love this. Blaze wasn't changed much, which is fine by me. All you really needed to do was make her movement smoother. But holy shit, what was Chaos X smoking when he gave Omega the option to transition into a first-person shooter segment? This has to be my favorite change in the entire game. Like, I love this, and I also need those drugs he's on. Like, I really need this. There are even new animated segments that he really didn't need to add, but hell with it. He's flexed enough already, why not a little more? I think he's still got the final story to do left, and he says the story is going to be put on the side, which I think everyone is fine with. But could you imagine the fool that tried to look through all this broken glass of a narrative and try to make it digestible? Chaos X proved that Sonic 06 as a game was salvageable. Why not take a stab at the story? Hell, take bits of Sonic Rush and Rivals if you really want to get into the weeds of the lore mill, and if you're really that much of a lunatic. Man, that actually sounds like a fun exercise. Anyway, play Project 06. I wanted to play more of it myself, but I have to go on with... Oh boy. Okay, so, what do you even say about Sonic Rivals? Both this and its sequel might be some of the most unremarkable games in the franchise, and I'm struggling to find an equal. They're just one-on-one racing games where everyone is a one-dimensional prick who wants to race to Eggman because, I'm bored, just entertain me like the bitchy toddler I am. What else is there to point out? You got character-specific star moves, which Silver is the best by far. And it's the only time where Tails can fly in the second game. Like, that's a positive with prominently horizontal level design. Shadow and Rouge rarely interact for some reason. Amy is practically an afterthought, which is funny considering she'd have a lot more to do than Knuckles, who seems to only exist to be bullied by the Hedgehogs. Even Silver just puts down Knuckles like he's a cop shoving away an attention-starved teenager. Poor guy. The story and character interactions make no sense, even when you remove the fact that Eggman Nega is back, retconning him being from another dimension, instead being his disgruntled descendant who has a camera that turns everything into cards, and in the second game he wants to resurrect the Ifrit by feeding it chow, like what the hell? And it's implied that Silver and Espio leave him to rot in the Ifrit's dimension? Burn. They make the Outlaws burn to a crisp. But even with that crazy summary, you aren't really going to remember that story. You aren't even going to remember the game. People claim the game is forgotten only because it's on the PSP, the console only remembered for the abundance of RPGs. But I assure you, even the people who bought any of these games don't remember anything about them. And I doubt they'd be curious enough to come back. What a flock of nothing. Thanks. Could've gotten it myself, though. Okay, Never faced a genie before. What, is Sonic Riders suddenly worthless to you people? Now here's a game that I have some fond-ish memories with. Christmas of 2009, we finally got our Nintendo Wii after giving a knockoff console the year before. Actually don't remember the name of it. But we got the red one with New Super Mario Bros. My brother got 2 extra games, I don't remember what they were. But I got 2 Sonic games, and this was one of them. And I kinda remember enjoying it at the time. I was a big fan of the Arabian Nights, mostly thanks to Disney's Aladdin. And when I started the game, I was engrossed in the cutscenes. Secret Rings has a fun style, with penciled illustration on sepia-toned paper. And Shara is cute as hell. Sure, she looks like Shantae that got her hair bleached pink and has the voice of Blaze the Cat. But I want to snuggle her and tell her that everything is going to be alright. Stop laughing. I wish Razor Jim was more involved. He taunts Sonic with a sneer and staples a fireball to his chest. Has a pterodactyl kidnap a king once, summons a fire gem once, and he doesn't really do a whole lot past that until the ending. He does indirectly impact the characters of the story, I guess? Wait a minute. Yeah, the gimmick of the characters being portrayed by Sonic's friends and Eggman is honestly weird. Is there really a reason that Knuckles takes the form of Sinbad or Tails taking the form of Alibaba? You meet King Solomon, and he's not in the form of Vector the Crocodile, first character that came to mind for some reason. And you actually see Big the Cat scattered around the World of Wonders, and he was just teleported by, I think, Shara. It's kind of implied, I think. But yeah, there is a lot of charm here, though Shara's played a little too straight, and like I said, Eraser should have been shown as a more direct threat. The game is only 3 hours long if you know what you're doing, and I stress if very strongly, which I'll elaborate soon. And cutscenes happen sparingly. That's probably due to cost measures. This was supposed to be a port of 2006 for the Wii before being transformed due to complications, and the game still came out only 3 months afterwards. Yeah, I'm surprised we got this much story in the first place. Still, its pitiful amount of world building is worth critiquing. Though, now that I think about it, the party game could have been cut for more focus. There's 5 completely different games in this mode, from buying carpets, to treasure hunting, to pirate-themed Candyland. Yes, it's fucking Candyland, and it's shit. And it's got a few fun mini-games that don't require the poor man's gyro aiming, but it's worth really nothing. If you want more attractions, mini-games, or even more characters, you'll want to collect some Fire Souls. This is pretty much a precursor to the Red Rings from Colors onward, and their only purpose is for this Mario Party ripoff. But hey, I hear it's still better than Sonic Shuffle. Oh god, why do their mouths look like that? I guess I didn't mention the gameplay, let me get back to that. Yeah, this is on the Wii, early in the Wii's life at that, so you know motion control is a must. However, the lunatics at Sonic Team believed that controlling Sonic with nothing but motion was the best bet. Sure, you got a break and jump button, as well as a boost and the ability to slow time later on, which you use with the D-pad, but you got to move and attack with nothing but a tilt of the Wiimote. It's kind of odd thinking how this is the first 3D Sonic game to give us the boost. No, those don't count. No, those don't count either. Also, what is Time Break? The only time it felt necessary is if you were going for all the invisible fire souls. I mean, you gotta get all of them to get expert mode and an endless challenge for party mode. It's not really worth it if you ask me. Silver, I expected more out of you. I am disappointed to call you my son. Secret Rings is frustrating, since emotion-heavy controls can lead to jank and baffling design choices. I had this happen once playing the game back then, and I had it happen again after trying to replicate it to show you how easy it is to get trapped. Ain't that funny? Getting more experience to gain better traction, range, and speed doesn't really help with this massive problem either. You know what's crazy though? I think it was all that frustration that made me want to 100% this game back then. I wanted to best the game, get all the fire souls, unlock every page in the special book, and get all the gold medals in every level. It helped that my collection, especially compared to today, was really small, so I could take advantage of the time sink. Whether it was worth it or not, it wasn't. I can't bring myself to hate the game because of such resilience. Even still, it's nothing more than okay, and it's not really a game you should waste your time on under any circumstance. Ooh, what is that music? Is that a new venture, la la? So despite loving Sonic Rush, I'd never tried Rush Adventure until now. It just looked like Sonic Rush, but with unnecessary sea exploration. I had some interest in the overall idea. A game where Sonic and Tails are transported to Blaze's world sounded exciting. However, the fact that the Soul Dimension is just a series of islands sounded flimsy in a gameplay sense. But what is my verdict? Yeah, my assumptions were pretty accurate. Don't get me wrong, the main game is still a lot of fun. The boosting is fun, the tricks are fun. No, we're not doing that anymore, stop that. And once Blaze is available, you get the chance to play as her instead of just having a separate story for her. And let's be honest, you'd be an idiot to not play as Blaze for the rest of the game. She still has the longer range for her directional tricks, and now has the immunity to fire, as rare as that ability is. Speaking of Blaze, having her be the surrogate makes the world building feel personal, and the addition of the Coconut Crew and Marine allows the world a sense of community. Unfortunately, before Blaze, you have to deal with Marine as a surrogate guide, and she is just the absolute ugh. She's not awful, she can be a nice source of comic relief, but she just has the same joke, and it gets old faster and faster the longer the game goes on. If this game had voice acting for its cutscenes, I'd most likely be a hell of a lot more critical of her character. That irritation also revolves around the main big bad of the game, Captain Whiskers. Again, he has the same jokes. He's a pirate, he's absent-minded, and he has not one, but two little guys on his shoulders. What's the point of them? Great question! And then there's Johnny. That's a mundane name. I know Johnny kind of fits the nature of a pirate, but anyway. This dude is the way you get the Chaos Emeralds, and frankly, that's all he exists for, and fuck him for it. In order to talk about why this dickweed is a dickweed, we must discuss the vehicles. One of Sonic Rush Adventure's biggest introductions is the collection of materials to build vehicles, including a modest jet ski, a sailboat, a hovercraft, and finally a submarine. The differences between the vehicles are superficial. They have varying traveling range and have narrative differences like going above and below water, but I say narrative because it's all the same shit. You're getting to your destination no matter what, and the gameplay styles are technically split into two types of touch minigames, and even then you're just tapping and sliding with very little variation. In order to get these vehicles created, you have to get materials, which you collect from stages and mini-islands. And if you don't get the higher ranks, you might need to replay the stage over and over again. You're most likely going to play through the bosses, which are not only better than the previous game, and not only are they faster than most of the stages in the game, they're easier to get S ranks, meaning you're getting more materials out of it. It's monotonous, but it's helpful. You'll need materials to upgrade the vehicles as well, but you have to upgrade them in order, and you got to upgrade the jet ski to max in order to deal with Johnny without too much pain. So you gotta play through the stages over and over, and you are going to dive into the ocean, never rise again, and wait for the sweet release to fill your lungs with depression and apathy. And saltwater. Just because it's a handheld game, that does not excuse the repetition. This repetition is the reason it's not better than the original game. Yes, the level design is better. Yes, the soundtrack is just as good as the original, if not better. Yes, the bosses are better, for the most part anyway. The final boss is kind of a snooze fest. Oh, also the Eggmen were behind the whole plan this entire time. Who could have saw that coming? However, the added content drags the game's pace to a crawl, so much that it's hard to notice that it's even moving. I'm sure it's better on revisits, since you won't have to worry about the grindfest but I don't know. I feel like doing the busy work in the first place taints the future experience anyway. I'm probably never playing it again. Much like Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Yeah, another sequel I never played until now because of what I've heard, yet I was still disappointed with. By the way, I played the PS2 version, not the Wii version. I'm not in the mood to play another game that's so motion heavy. I'm glad I made that decision because this game is a mess to control. I'm not sure how, but the drift feels looser than the original, and some of the characters, the power characters specifically, feel so slow to the point where the CPUs just pass you by easily. But it's not just the control, the whole mechanics are just worse for me. They killed the air meter, which was the coolest part of Riders for me. And now you have this gravity meter where you can manipulate gravity to do a sharp turn, which is clumsy as hell. And you can manipulate it to get on walls, which is a cute way to make alternate routes. There is also this boost-like state that can give you a wedge ahead if you smack yourself into the debris. This does not feel as good as you believe, only because it's styled with barely any substance, and when you don't have it, you realize how bland half the track actually is. There is also this upgrade system that is rather confusing. It's not easy to interpret the icons that you unlock, aside from things like the ability to grind, fly, and smash. Why are these upgrades? You can collect enough rings to skip the set upgrades, but it's wild how a standard part of the original game is now regulated as something you should earn, which is, I don't know, feels sluggish in terms of the pace of the tracks. Last of my critiques, why did they simplify the tricks to just hitting a button? The tricks are so fun to fumble with in the original game, and they just removed it because they wanted it to be more accessible, I guess. They just overreached though, which I feel is just Zero Gravity in a nutshell. It feels like they simplified Sonic Riders to the point where it lost its flair. Which is interesting because the story mode is more dramatic. The story revolves around these ancient rings which are connected to the Babylon Garden, and Eggman is the CEO of a major tech enterprise that is corrupted by the Ark of the Cosmos. The twist at the end of the story is kinda dumb, with Babylon Garden being a sleeping black hole and having the Babylonians be aliens instead of, or also being genies. It makes the existence of Babylon feel cluttered and confused as a concept. Which for this game I guess is fitting. At least this game gave us Blaze and Silver as playable characters, and the extra stages are better than the standard racetracks by a country mile. There's also this broom that implies Witchcard is a canon character in the modern universe. I wish it didn't, this broom sucks dick. Oh, speaking of sucking dick. Oh, Sonic Chronicles, what am I gonna do with you? I'm pretty sure this is the DS game that I played the most, but the story of why that is kinda sad to talk about. Before I go into detail on that, I should say that I have talked about this game before when I made my very first review video almost a decade ago. Good lord. It's not on this channel, but it does exist on the now Stream Archive channel. It's unlisted, but it's in one of the playlist folders, so if you're incredibly curious, you do you. I can't be bothered. Why did I look like that? I'm not saying that I look great today, but I'd like to say that I'd evolved my visual taste since then. You know, the Napoleon Dynamite look just doesn't suit me, you dig? So I was intrigued in Sonic Chronicles, mostly because the color looks sick. And when starting it up, I learned that, oh, it's an RPG. I like Pokemon, I like Mario and Luigi, I like Final Fantasy. I thought I had something to enjoy here because it combined a genre I liked with the franchise I liked. I had no idea what a BioWare was, I didn't play the high-budget PC games to play, or anything on Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 for that matter. So the names Mass Effect and KOTOR were not in my mental vocabulary. If I did, I would have felt more dread because they haven't really done a turn-based RPG on a handheld, B-Team or otherwise, and they hadn't really dealt with doing the standard BioWare Paragon Renegade system with established characters. I'm not talking established franchises, obviously, established characters. Sonic doesn't have drastically conflicting dialogue boxes, sometimes they only have one dialogue option at points. But overall, I'm not really big on the dialogue choices as a whole, and I don't even remember liking them much when I was a teenager. I could revisit the review I made nearly a decade ago, but I don't want to. God, that camera is awful. Why did I use the microphone? Everything about this is so raw. Oh hey, I think that's a great segue to what I think about the presentation. It's awful. Even back then, I thought this game looked and sounded, at best, lackluster, and at worst, gross. The 2D cutscenes from the opening cutscene to the finale look like crude Newgrounds animations. And the 3D models and animations just make the characters look like plush toys being manipulated by a small invisible child. I don't need to mention the sound, you guys know the problems with the music and the sound effects. It's baffling to hear corrupted versions of classic Sonic music. Nocturnus having a bad version of Beg Arms is the most offensive one for me. Genesis Diamond Dust in Central City is just funny to me at this point. And why is the KO sound just a Looney Tunes bounce sound? Certainly dilutes the threat of the main villains and bosses, frankly. It's worth noting that it's not all terrible. I didn't hate the Saturn Diamond Dust remix in Blue Ridge, and the battle themes are fine. Not particularly impressive in the compositions, but I think you could make some sick remixes out of them. Also, the character portraits are nice. Some of them look kinda goofy, but the art style is nice to look at. Lastly, the one big compliment this game gets, and one of the reasons I played this game a lot back then, was the characterizations. I tend to only remember the one time Big got sassy towards Sonic, but the conversations and the crew trying to solve this conspiracy about the Marauders is nice in the moment, even if most of it isn't too memorable. There's also some subtle butterfly effects, such as Sonic and Amy's relationship being affected depending on Sonic's attitude. It's a cute way to encourage replayability, and the new Game Plus is a great motivator. If you like the gameplay in the first place. Okay, I gotta talk bullshit. This game is all touch controlled. You use the stylus to move the characters, to switch characters, to activate character actions, though you can use the triggers for those as well. And it's used in the battle system, and God, where can I start to complain? First off, and more importantly, I can't stand the format. You have a predetermined order for each round. If you choose to attack or defend, you have to do so for every slot you have. If you have a POW move, the equivalent of spells or action commands, you have to use it on the first or next available slot. If it requires more than one character, those extra characters are pushed to the user's slot and uses all of their POW points alongside them. Which sucks because you have so little points to spend. Sure, you can use items, but they follow the rules of the POW moves as well, so you can't strategize to use some POW candy at the end of a round. Same with using POW moves that recover HP and PP, strategy is limited. I feel like they knew that with Cream because her base speed is high enough to place her at the top of the pack. It wasn't enough that she only had one action slot and her POW moves are some of the toughest to complete. POW moves require you to slide and tap the screen with these tokens, a la Elite Beat Agents. However, while doing damaging moves, you can slip up and get some results to a weaker extent. But with support moves, you have to be pitch perfect. One mistake and the move fails. Maybe for instant KO moves it makes sense, but you can't make the move less potent in other cases. If there were a Chow to let you avoid these minigames, I'd be a hell of a lot more annoyed at this idea. Oh yeah, Chow are a thing in the form of equipment, and yeah, I kinda like this idea. Collect some eggs, hope you get a good Chow, and equip it for the best moments. The common Chow look like cheap recolors, let's be honest. But I love the rare and unique Chow designs. Some of them look like little puppies, and some look like legally distinct dark Chow. In fact, there's actually no dark or hero Chows in this game at all. Strange choice. These rare and unique Chow have some specifically potent attributes, though most of them barely have that much of an impact. The only ones worth a damn are Ferrex, the Chow that makes POW moves always succeed, like I said, and Spartoy, which gives you a small chance to instantly KO an enemy with a basic attack. To be honest, I only find it funny because I gave it to Eggman, because instantly knocking out anyone with a wrench is comically interesting. Why is Eggman's basic attack just throwing a wrench? He had a gun 2 years earlier. Why doesn't he use a gun? Let him use a fucking gun! The basic attacks also have a pretty irritating accuracy rate that I think about it, so the lack of PP makes the pacing more sluggish. Not to mention that other equipment and status effects are inconsequential, so why should you strategize past do as much damage as possible, hope they don't evade the attacks because that's guaranteed to waste your time and energy, and then heal up later on your downtime. The game is so exhausting, and I barely touched on the actual narrative, you know, the guts to hold an RPG together. Good characterization doesn't change how bare of a plot this is. It's kinda cool how there's a missing echidna tribe that pissed off a certain comic creep. It's nice to see Eggman teaming up with the heroes, and it's fun to see new civilizations, even if they clearly feel more like BioWare's DNA rather than Sega's. The villain just sucks ass, however. He's just a generic manipulative dictator who wants to take over the world, and his fall at the end is the most pathetic in the series. At least Black Doom, Mephiles, and even Eraser Jim put up a fight. And your only reward is a can. Can someone tell me why this guy's name is Ix? There's a blink and miss piece of dialogue that implies it's supposed to be the Roman numeral 9, meaning that Rome is canon to the Sonic universe. Is it supposed to be a subtle nod to the Nazis? If so, that's really, really dumb. Just as dumb as the Fear wannabe. The game's cliffhanger is also deemed worthless. It's been over 15 years since the game, and we'll most certainly never see a follow-up to it. This is because BioWare was bought by the gaming equivalent to Satan, and Ken Penders sued Sega over the Nocturnus clan being similar to his equally pathetic group of echidna freaks. Thanks, Kenny, you certainly got the Midas touch if instead of gold you turn everything into fluff and cyanide. Considering Chronicles is now considered non-canon by Sega and Ian Flynn, I suppose none of it really makes a difference. That cliffhanger had my imagination racing, though, to the point where I connected two dots from completely different pages. I owned this Sonic Chronicles strategy guide ever since I had the game, as you can definitely tell. And you know, it was actually pretty accurate for a previous strategy guide. And while I looked through the guide, I saw the character bios at the beginning, and saw those level caps. Since the game has a new Game Plus feature that keeps your level progress, my dumbass thought if you got to level 30, you got to fight Eggman in this dystopian feature that he created, despite the fact that this guide has absolutely no mention of that whatsoever, so I was just a dumb fucking teenager. And I really hate that teenager for wasting my goddamn time. I could have played any other RPG, though considering I was 14 at the time and I didn't really have money or an access to any game stores, I guess I was kind of stuck, so I really wish I could have played Chrono Trigger on the DS instead. Sonic Chronicles may be worthless, but I wish Sega would come back to the Sonic RPG idea. There's enough potential to play with. Hell, this game had some good ideas in itself, so I can't really say it's a bad game overall. I was expecting to tear it apart, since I don't ever remember it fondly. Unfortunately, I have to learn that it's not because the game is bad or a waste of potential. It's just because it's a boring, mediocre experiment. And I'm afraid it's going to stay an experiment. Oh boy, it's time for the fan favorite, right? The one that people believe is the best in the series? The one where people are horny for the fuzzy furry? Despite not owning a 360 or PS3, I did play this one on the Wii. It was a Christmas present alongside our Wii, along with Secret Rings. My Sonic hype was bad in the late 2000s, would you believe it? I enjoyed my time with it, though the Werehog gave me a what the hell kind of reaction. The idea of Sonic turning into a werewolf wasn't too crazy to me. I was just not expecting it to be a 3D beat-em-up. And I was getting my ass kicked. The motion controls were a major issue when I wanted to experiment with combos. The Magic Gate shit could blow me, and half the level design was pretty bare. The story was actually enjoyable, with Sonic trying to reconnect the world, meeting the people and experiencing cultures, and trying to reconnect the memories of this little pixie chihuahua dude, whom Sonic named Chip after the ice cream he's housing on. Chip is okay, he got a little annoying first time playing it, but he grows tolerable over time. I like talking to the people in town, though it's funny that the conversations are just visual novel styled. In the HD version, it's obviously a lot more natural when you walk around the small plazas. Now, speaking of the HD version, I held that off for years. Since I've experienced the game to some extent, newer games took priority. And a working Xbox 360 is like finding an open Kmart. My luck stat is just pathetic. There was also a time where I saw the HD version in action for the first time, mentioned how different it looked to the guy playing it, and he told me I was an idiot. I hope he's living through hell. Thankfully, the Xbox One and Series consoles are able to play the game through the backwards compatibility program, and from what I hear, the Series X can run Unleashed optimally. I instead played this on the Xbox One because I do not have a Series X, and I have absolutely no reason to get one. On that note, damn, this game is pretty. This is the first game to use the Hedgehog engine, and it is insane that this game is one of, if not the best looking 3D game in the series. Like seriously, the games after this just don't compare, generations accepted. Hell, the Hedgehog Engine 2 games just look worse. How does that happen? Even still, the graphics may look fantastic, but it is still a strain on the system, especially in the late game. Dude, the stuttering ain't what I need in levels that tend to last a little longer than needed. And yeah, my immediate criticism with this game is the length. The nighttime stages are the obvious offenders, with the first stage taking roughly 15 minutes. They also feel long when the enemies start coming around for a brawl and the most obnoxious boombox blasts in your ear canals. The game's soundtrack overall is so fantastic. Some of my favorites are During the Night. Arid Sands Night might be one of my favorites in the franchise. God, that song is so good, and yet this stage has to be the biggest offender of this atrocity. I wish great harm to the jackass who made this decision. I also want to thank the asshole who decided to put a dead-end trap where you're stranded until you're ambushed to death. Took me 30 minutes to realize it wasn't trapped because I thought it was a location to one of the keys. The puzzles are one of the best parts of the Werehog, though. I just wish there were a lot more of them. The combat is kind of boring for me, even if some of the moves can be fun to pull off. Plus, the platforming can be a little dangerous. Every time a balance pull appears, my palms sweat buckets since I know my legs are going to be drained. The daytime stages aren't much safer, mostly because the design revolves more on boosting and homing attack chains. But sometimes the homing attack likes to disappear at the most terrifying times. And why does the homing attack and boost have to be on the same button? That has killed me more than I needed it to. The lightspeed dash and wall jump are also pretty picky. You gotta try and get to the right angle and hope it connects. Which, to be fair, does connect more often than not, but when it doesn't... yeah... I also don't like how the stomp keeps your momentum, which means it's barely worth using outside of these switches. I do like how they went back to the upgrades being spread around the hub worlds like the adventure games, which, considering its Japanese name was Sonic World Adventure, I'd say it's a nice callback. And while the level design can show some teeth, I love how the levels have plenty of paths to run through, and plenty of nooks and crannies for collectibles, which, considering the previous Sonic Team games tending to stay linear, is a massive accomplishment. The reason to find those multiple routes, however... oh god. So the main collectibles in Sonic Unleashed are these Sun and Moon medals, and they are required to unlock new stages. The medal requirements are usually pretty steep, and if you're missing quite a number of them, you're going to have to scramble around past levels to get to the cap. Which, like I said, the nighttime levels tend to last really long, and the daytime stages are not made to be explored. The Wii version gets another point for making the medals tied to rank instead. Certainly helps with the pacing. I think that's why Empire City exists, because otherwise this level is the most pointless addition. And I guess Tim's agreed, because that stage doesn't appear at all. It also doesn't have Missouri, aside from the hub and boss for some reason. And speaking of things not in the Wii version, does anyone like the tornado stages? Instead of making them like they were in Adventure, you just hit the right buttons in order to defend a ship and grab some points. It's only used twice to be fair, but I hated both of them with every fiber of my being. In fact, what is this game's obsession with QTEs in general? You have them for the Werehog's finishing moves, the trick ramps in the day stages, which can sometimes kill you if you mess it up, fuck you game. And some of the bosses require you act with these damn things in order to take them down. I'd actually enjoy these bosses were it not for these joy killers. Except for one which... ugh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I need to talk about Eggman Land. If my complaint about the stage length wasn't egregious enough, this damn stage had to take me 3 damn hours to complete. Because the stage has so many beginner's traps, it flips between the Hedgehog and Werehog forms, causing a lot of pacing problems. The absolute gall to bring back the bobsleigh from Cool Edge, that shit is awful by the way. And so much of the clunky aspects of both styles creeping up. Ugh. Are we in agreement that this is the worst level in Sonic history? At least the worst final level? I guess the best part about it is that the Werehog never transitioned into the battle theme, so, I don't know, thanks for that. And at least it's followed up by the A-Dragoon, which is a fantastic fight, despite having to end on the QTE sequence. It's kind of a no-brainer why they bring this thing back. But then we get to Dark Gaia. Fuck Dark Gaia! None of the phases of this fight are fun. The Gaia Colossus moves like a tank, and Dark Gaia's laser attack leaves damage no matter what. It is frustrating. Thank the Wii version for instead making it Punch-Out. The Sonic segments have a strict as hell time limit that kill me so often. And when you finish, you have to go back to the Gaia Colossus for some reason. Thankfully, the Wii version doesn't do either of those, thank God. And finally, fuck the snakes in the barrier, seriously. It felt like luck trying to fuck these things up before Dark Gaia killed Chip. Do I even need to tell you the Wii version did this better too? Seriously, the Wii version may be the lesser of the two versions, yet it did so much shit better than the HD version. At least Unleashed has one of the best endings. With how well they showed Sonic and Chip's relationship, I think the bittersweet yet inspiring bookend was perfect. Accompanying alongside the song Endless Possibilities, this theme is great, as well as Dear My Friend in the credits. My opinion on Sonic Unleashed is complicated, if you couldn't tell. There's a lot to like. The storytelling, the graphics, the music, Sonic and Chip's relationship, and the gall to show gushing blood in a children's video game. Holy shit. But the pacing and Metal Collection just bruises the experience. It's easily the best game in the video, aside from Riders, and I totally understand the hype. Maybe if I ever play it again, I'll find a new respect for it, though a terrifying part of me believes I'd have to do a completionist run and the chili dog challenges make me feel ill. Before I move on to the last game in the video, I want to touch up on the tie-in animation for Unleashed, Night of the Werehog. If Marza wasn't showing off in the game, they were having a blast here. The animation is just fun. It's a silent film, so we don't really get to hear a lot of banter from Sonic and Chip. Though if there was voice acting, I'm not sure I'd want to hear the things coming out of these guys' mouths. These bumbling goons of this pink ghost just want to take a picture of a scared shitless Sonic, just so they can get a smooch from her. I mean, I know there are a lot of Sims out there who would do the same thing. I'm not exactly sure when this takes place or where the mansion is located. It doesn't really seem to fit during the adventure, and it's certainly not an epilogue of some kind. But hey, it's a side story, I shouldn't nitpick too much. It's a fun short regardless. Give it a watch if a spooky action short sounds fun to you. Oh, wait a minute! I completely forgot there was a phone version. I mean, it was delisted years ago, but, you know, there's emulation out there. I can probably... Never mind, let's just move on. So I'm not sure what to say about Black Knight, I'll be honest. I was excited for the game when it was coming out. I saw an advertisement for the game in a magazine my mom had, and I hung it on my wall. It might have actually been the game that made me want a Wii. It certainly wasn't going to be because of Super Mario Galaxy, I'll tell you that much. If you don't know, watch my shit for God's sake. But I didn't get the game until a year after getting our Wii, and I have to be honest, compared to Secret Rings and Unleashed, this was nothing special in comparison. I should start with some compliments before I start to bitch. And I have to start with the soundtrack, which is incredible to think about. If you told me what I thought of the soundtrack back then, I would not have thought much of it. I'd probably only remember Night of the Wind, Misty Lake, and With Me. But over time, after hearing more people coming out defending the game, I hear all the praise for the music, and I had to see if those opinions would change at all. And dude, it was like flipping a switch. There's a heavy reliance on the violin and woodwinds, giving a Celtic vibe to the whole sound. My favorites being Camelot Castle, Titanic Plains, Fairway Avalon, Molten Mine. What is this? Black Dawn. Sorry, how the fuck did this happen? Oh, that explains a lot, actually. Wait, what do you mean this song was in 3 video games? I guess I'm glad to know Tom Dennis's work is getting a lot of use, but still, hashtag fuck you, Tommy. All the vocal tracks are great too. Crush 40 went all in on the soundtrack, almost like they knew they were going to go on a long hiatus after this game. Fight the Night and Through the Fire are fun battle themes. Night of the Wind is a much less grating main theme compared to Secret Rings in Hand. Mostly because they don't jam it down your throat every 5 minutes. With Me is definitely one of the best final boss themes in the series. Shame the actual boss wasn't exactly worthy of the track. And Live Life is in my top 3 favorites of Crush 40. It's just a somber and wonderful listen when I need a pick-me-up. It's actually kind of funny how my 3 favorite Crush 40 songs are endgame themes to some of my most disliked games in the series. Like Secret Rings, it's got a lovely visual style. This time with watercolors, black shadows, and redrawn frames to emulate motion. It's very nice on the eyes, and with the score it can make for some of the most exciting moments in the series. My favorite moment is before the final boss. Sonic gets back up after a series of beatdowns with an instrumental of It Doesn't Matter playing alongside it. It's so fucking good. Which brings me to the story, and I gotta be honest, it's very underwhelming. The idea of Sonic fighting the corrupted version of King Arthur sounds interesting on paper, and of course your companions are a talking sword and the daughter of Merlin the wizard. You can tell because her name is Merlin with an A at the end. I just realized that we've had 3 female human companions in the span of 3 years, and I'm starting to wonder if someone from Sonic Team is pining for the resurgence of Madonna. Though Merlina is hardly in the story, only around for a brief existential monologue, and returns for the climax in the most unremarkable twist, which I caught the second she held that fucking flower. It might explain why King Arthur is a nothing villain. You only meet the illusion 3 times, and one of those times Merlina just keeps Sonic away from him. Actually, you know what, scratch that, I think that was the point I realized she was the villain. The knights you fight aren't much of anything either. Like, it's fun how all the knights are based on all of Sonic's rivals. Even Silver and Jet have knight forms in the multiplayer. Don't ask what I think of the multiplayer, it's human only, and nobody would be paid to play with this shit with me. But you just meet them once, spam the Wiimote shakes, and take their swords until you team up with them for the finale. I guess it is kind of amusing to see Knuckles nearly slice his throat because being a knight means you gotta be a sore loser. Like, what the hell was that? But that's all I remember of these guys, and you can play as them during the finale, but not only can you not play as them in any of the previous levels if you really wanted to, but all of them are basically just worse version of Sonic, except for Knuckles because his glide is hilariously overpowered. But considering Sonic ain't that great to begin with, well, let's get into that. This game's controls are at the very least traditional compared to Secret Rings. You have the nunchuck this time, meaning you can control Sonic with the control stick. Sadly, that's the only advantage in my opinion. You still gotta do a lot of waggling for the swordplay, which considering combat is heavily utilized this time, you are doing it a lot, and it is exhausting. As asinine as it was to have Sonic fully motion controlled in Secret Rings, at least you only shake the Wiimote for quick moments. Here, you don't have a dull moment, except when you give rings to the townspeople. Like, what's the point? To get end-level materials? For what? Sword upgrades? I'm actually not sure, but it's not like I give a shit. Unlike Secret Rings, the controls aren't so frustrating that I'd ever want to hate play it. It's just a nothing game, and I get why people like it, especially compared to Secret Rings, but I don't know. I just don't think it's anything special. If I have to end it on a positive note, though, it does have a nice ending, with Sonic telling Merlina to live her life to the fullest, as well as the adventure essentially being an excuse made up to Amy because he forgot their date. That's actually legitimately funny. So with everything said, have I finally learned to love the Sonic Dark Age? Do seagulls avoid trash cans like the plague? I don't really enjoy most of these games, and the ones I do are heavily flawed to make me not really put them on a high pedestal. With that said, I do understand why other people have come around to it. When Shadow the Hedgehog was revealed, it was mocked, and when it released, it was lambasted for being confusing and frustrating to control. But people do enjoy the cringe, and 2006 also seems to have that cringy charm to it. They also seem to have allowed Sonic Team to find the best middle ground in terms of tone, taking Sonic Colors, Generations, and Lost World as games too light in their tones. And thanks to that, we got games like Frontiers and Shadow Generations, games that are more somber and introspective, which I think is a decent compromise. Sonic Unleashed, Black Knight, and even Chronicles showed that the world building is crucial to the franchise's DNA. And the Archie comics at the time, as well as the 2010s simplifying the world a little too much, people were starving for more grit and complexity. Like the man or not, Ian Flynn understands the franchise and its community. He wants the world of Sonic the Hedgehog to be as interesting and consistent as possible, and he believes that everything has merit, even the most benign and superfluous. Sure, Chronicles is tossed in the trash thanks to a specific piece of trash, and the storybook series is a coin toss in that regard. There's a lot to tinker with these stories, the characters, and there are plenty of ways to sculpt the potential of all of these ideas into the overall universe. Sadly, potential is a very tricky substance to mold, even with the greatest of artists. So Sonic is going to be a bumbling series for a good long while. We are getting there though. The franchise is starting to get its gameplay footing thanks to Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations, while the characterization is being held up thanks to games like Sonic Dream Team and The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Not to mention the IDW comics, despite some tiptoeing from the higher-ups at Sega. Seriously, Penny really did some damage to this Hedgehog's ability to evolve. We can only hope that Sega can keep up with the momentum and, loosen up the grips for the creatives. The movies are doing great in that regard, so why not just give fans more than the basics and a little more substance? There's a reason why they're backing away from the 2000s era and, leaning into the 2000s, especially with the adventure games and stuff like that. But, time will tell, and got more of this lovely... Oh, come on, can you at least let me finish my sandwich? Oh my fucking goodness, it's been a while since I... Come on. Come on. There you go. There you go. Touch this. Woo! Awesome. I got a little itch in my ear. Online interactions not rated by the ESRB. Lovely. I just realized that I have a vacuum cleaner up there. Oh. That was a little loud.
Would you like for Omo Chow to teach you how to play?
I'm going to regret this.
On your gear.
Okay. Wait, face for...
Get set.
Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. I'm sight. There you go. While leaning left and right, please follow. Okay. All right. Oh, ow.
First, let's just get from start to finish.
Oh, this is gonna be bad, isn't it? Oh, Sonic, why? Sonic, please. Please don't have a schizophrenic episode right now. Pure hell? Probably pure hell.
Alright, bring it on!
Oh, boy. Oh. I shouldn't stand in front. That's... Yeah. Oh, boy. That was not as bad as I thought it would be.
That was awesome!
I will give you that one. Yes, I was expecting to fail that miserably. Oh, there's a switching mechanic? How did I hit the what? Oh dear.
Start crouching now to charge.
Oh fuck off. That was okay, that's a C. Okay, fine.
Not quite. Charge up. Jump.
Oh wow.
That was an air trick.
That did not feel like
you'll regain air.
That did not feel like an S rank.
That was awesome.
This is just a tutorial and I'm already feeling exhausted.
Do that and you'll do a spin.
Oh, fuck all the way off. I don't like that one bit. Oh, no. I don't. Was that it? Did I do that? No, I did not.
That was tricky, huh? Give it another
Yeah, no
try.
shit. How about I don't? Because this seems like very minuscule shit. Oh, crap. Did I get that?
That was
What do you mean I did not get I'm spinning. My shoe just got... Please tell me I got that.
That was tricky, huh? Give it another try.
Can I just skip this entire thing? Hey, Team Heroes. Team Heroes or Team Babylon? Let's spin. Oh, just do. Or nope. The Connect wants me to do Heroes, not Babylon. Okay, fine. I wanted to be crazy, but fine. What the
Grand Prix is finally set to begin.
Billy fuck ever.
You always leave all the tech work to me.
Well, of course. I know you'll do it.
You know,
better
for the
than
first
anybody
attempt,
else.
this voice acting is pretty good.
Make us wait. All this pent-up energy is making me itch. Come on, let's do this thing.
Hang in there, Knuckles. Or is it just me? Or does this
Though Kig Higgins could probably be a little more enthused.
May the best team win! Oh,
If I wasn't paying attention, I would have thought that was Amy. Drifting's fine.
See ya.
Oh, what did I get? What? Oh, wait.
See ya.
What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, what the? What is this? What am I doing? That was an S, right? Oh, wait, what? Oh, okay, I guess I had the right idea.
Sweet!
Wait, that was it? That kinda happened fast. Ring collection. Okay. Collect 100 rings. Tails, do something for me, please. Thank you. Oh my fucking god, I hate this. I just want to collect the rings. Oh, fuck me. Oh, come on, I don't like this. Oh, there was a catalyst. I am not getting all of these rings. What the hell? Tails, get your fucking rings. Do you not know what this fucking mission is all about? No, it wasn't. Again, no. Oh god. Okay, so this is just. Oh. Okay, so you just jump. Right. I got it.
I'd suggest you beat us before getting excited.
Yeah, even in his first attempt, Kirk Thornton is not. Whatever.
So, who's the last member?
I don't remember the name for Rouge's voice actor, but she's okay.
There he is.
Just need one more. Oh, that was a trick ramp right there. They just blend in.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. That was a failure. This is not straightened out. My back straight well. Okay. I don't know how I got extra points, but that. I'm not sure how I'm doing much better. My legs feel like fucking fire right now. That wasn't whatever. I don't care. I got the 14. That's all I care about.
Did you see that?
Sweet Jesus H. Christ, I'm not even having fun with this.
On your gear!
Finally, Knuckles! Destroy at least 5 ice. Okay. Wait. Wait. Oh, okay. Just. Big, meaty fist or not. You know, in the original Sonic Riders, you can just, you know, ram into it. It was perfectly fine there. I'm punching. I'm punching! Punch, 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 punch. You know, there's a mod for this game. I kind of don't want to play it because the original's pissing me off already. I want to just. No, I'm done. I'm done. This I don't care. I don't care anymore. This is dumb. This is dumb. I don't like it. Everything is like 5, 3, 2, 1. I see the goal right there. I don't care. Fuck this. Yeah, you say it there, Knuckles. I don't want to do this anymore. This is that. All these games have been bad. This is the worst one so far, but everything else has been like, no, we're not. You know what? Every good thing I said, no, I don't want to do it again. Stop it. No.
Here we switch! Here we switch!
Wait. What the fuck did I? We're done.